In this episode, I want to talk about something that's helped so many people that I've chatted with about building and creating wealth. I call it the predictable and passive wealth building strategy. That's what we're going to get into today. So, really simply, to recap what we've been talking about, the Real Estate 101 series. Part one, we talked about the misconceptions about real estate investing and how to get started. Two, how much money do I need to get started, right? If I had $50,000, what should I do? And then we talked about if I have $8,000 or no money, can I get started? Week three, we talked about the tax benefits. And then last week, we talked about the wealth multiplier, which is debt. And then today, I want to sum it all up and really give you the predictable and passive wealth building strategy that I teach so many folks to really use and leverage to predictably and passively build wealth over their lifetime. Because if you want to for sure, with certainty, get wealthy, then you need a plan, right? Like this is not just throwing darts at the wall here. We need a plan in place in order to really build and grow wealth over our lifetime. And so this is not that hard. It's again, it just takes a plan, and I want to map it out for you today. And really simply, it's this: it's four parts. And let me just explain those parts to you. Number one is this: there's four parts, and the first one to the predictable and passive wealth building strategy is you need a cash flow business or high income stream. And so the plan is actually, I don't think, just go jump into real estate. Because real estate is, again, if you don't have a job or something that's paying you money, then real estate is just another job for you. And so I think to really have a predictable and passive wealth building strategy, first you need a business or a cash flow stream that you can rely on and count on a monthly or yearly basis. And so that's why I said in part two, how much money do I need to get started? You are your number one asset. So that's the asset you should be investing in building back up to continue to build this predictable and reliable cash flow stream, right? So that's why I'm a fan of, so I love entrepreneurs and helping them think about how do we grow and build their business. And maybe you're a sales or performance leader, right? And again, it's like, well, how can we improve those skills as you as a salesperson to grow that income? Or maybe there's other sources of income that you can use those skills for, or another product you can sell or tack on to grow that cash flow or that revenue stream. And so that's number one. That's why a lot of folks, I think, who are in executive positions who are doing well and they want to get maybe out of that job and they think real estate is the answer. I'm like, well, hold on, because if you don't have that reliable cash flow stream and you leave that, right, and you don't have the whole strategy that we're going to talk about today in place, and you're really just picking up another job. And so number one is really working and finding and stabilizing a good cash flow business or high income stream. And then number two, really simply, you want to invest the surplus into predictable cash flowing assets with a tax shelter. Da-da! That's why we love commercial real estate, because again, it is a predictable cash flowing asset, meaning we have residents that live into our buildings that pay rent every single month, right? That we buy buildings that have been occupied over 90% for a decade or more. And then we buy in markets that have job growth and population growth. So there's always going to be a demand for the assets that we own. And then we said, part of that number two is investing the surplus. And so this is, I tell my wife this all the time, babe, we got to pay the price now so we can pay whatever price we want to later. A lot of folks that really keep them from implementing this strategy is that they don't have any surplus. And it's not because they're not making enough money. It's because they're using the surplus to pay for other things, liabilities, fun, going out, eating out. And not that those things are bad, but again, like if the goal is to achieve financial independence, to be in a position, and again, I'm not talking about 30 or 40 or 50 years like the stock market promises. No, I'm talking like this strategy. This is a 10-year strategy, right? This is not over. You know my heart here. Like I want to free entrepreneurs and business leaders to really live life on purpose. And so we're not talking about 40 or 50 years here, but we have to pay the price now in order to be able to pay whatever price you want to later. And so you got to figure out, man, how do we create a surplus from what we have? And then again, the third part of number two is just tax shelter finding places that really shelter your money from taxes. Why real estate is a great way to do that. It works even better if you're a real estate professional, right? Because now we can use the depreciation loss that we've talked about in previous episodes against ordinary income. But even as a passive investor and you're not a real estate professional, you can use that depreciation expense against other passive income. And we have the tax shelter of like a 1031 and rolling those gains into the next project. And so we can push the tax liability down the road, which allows us, if we're not paying taxes, our money can keep growing faster and faster. And then number 3, the wealth multiplier, using leverage, using debt, using OPM, other people's money in order to grow and build that. And so this is what we're doing. We're typically, buying these assets with anywhere from 70 to 80% leverage. And so yes, we have our money and our investors' money into the deal, but we're also borrowing money. The Treasury just came out, or the Fed just came out and said that, interest rates are going to be low, probably sub 3% for the next 3 to 5 years. Listen, that's a great thing for us as real estate investors, because if we can buy something that is has what will be like a 5 or 6 cap, and we can borrow at a 3% interest rate, that's a 3% margin. That's 300 basis points margin. That's massive for us. And then we can increase that by, operational efficiencies and doing different things where we can bring rents up to market value and increase our cash flow even more. So using leverage is a huge piece of this predictable strategy, and not just using your own money, but learning how to leverage and borrow wisely. Good debt. We talked about that last episode. Go check that out. So number 3 is using leverage. And then 4, repeat this for a decade. Repeat this for a decade. Continue to invest in yourself. Increase that cash flow business or that revenue stream. Then look for predictable, reliable cash flowing assets that protect you from high taxes. Use leverage, right? Good leverage, making sure there's cash flow, making sure you have time, making sure you have reserves, and then repeat this cycle. I tell folks, 50K, try and get 50K into our deals every single year. In a decade, it'll change your life because of the multiplication of this, the consistency of this. It's not just investing 50K one time. It's investing 50K every single year consistently and without fail. And it really starts in this order. That's why number 1 is so important, that you have a predictable and reliable cash flow business or revenue stream. That's why you're building relationships along the way with people who can help you find predictable cash flowing assets that understand how to use leverage and debt to multiply your wealth, and then relying on you and your family to be consistent in this and do this every 10 years. Listen, this is what we do. I haven't talked about much this through the series, but this is what we do at ellishammond.com. We help passive investors who have the cash flow business, the high revenue stream, invest in large multifamily assets that protect their money, that help them keep more of their money, that multiply their money over time. And we help them do this consistently over and over and over. But also the thing that I think sets us apart is that we're doing this in a way that is faith-based, that we're not just investing assets and helping people build wealth, but we're really making an impact with all of our investing dollars, with all of the assets that we have. Because we're not just buying apartment complexes, we're buying communities, and we're investing back in those communities. And we're partnering with nonprofits to have spiritual transformation in those apartment complexes. And so, I hope I've given you incredible content. If you're interested in learning more about this predictable wealth building strategy, if you're there, you have number 1 down, and you're ready to go to number 2, investing into predictable cash flowing assets, go to ellishammond.com. There's a ton of resources there. We have a video explaining this more. And we actually are about in the works of launching our first fund, and we have a ton of opportunities available for accredited and non-accredited investors. So, ellishammond.com. I've loved doing this series. I hope this is helpful. Screenshot this, share this with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, tag me in it so that I know. I'd love to get your feedback on this. Excited for the next series. I already got some ideas, so look out for that next week. We'll be introing that, and I hope you enjoyed this. Cheers.